Welcome to Bilingual Book Buddies podcast and webcast. Bilingual Book Buddies is dedicated to promoting bilingual books for children and sharing insights from authors, illustrators, agents, editors, and anyone involved in bringing these stories to life. I'm Claudia Sloan. I'm one of 3 co-hosts of Bilingual Book Buddies. I'm an artist who also writes and illustrates books for children. I focus in themes of holistic wellness, Latinx culture, my own life adventures, modern fairy tales, sports, and STEAM. In fact, my latest picture book is a sports tale, and it was a dream come true because it was a collaboration with my favorite WNBA and NBA professional basketball teams, the Phoenix Suns and the Phoenix Mercury. And now join me in welcoming my 2 co-hosts, Alicia Salazar and Silvia Lopez.
Hi, I'm Alicia Salazar, children's book author and former teacher. I've written bilingual and English language books for young readers, including Camila the Star series, Trolls, Loch Ness Monster, and my recently published book, Cascarones, An Easter Surprise. I'm passionate about stories that celebrate culture, spark imagination, and encourage kids to express themselves, especially in more than one language. Silvia?
I'm Silvia Lopez. I am a Cuban American living in Miami, Florida. After a lifelong career as a school librarian, I took that love of reading and became an author of children's books. I have published about 19 books at this time, and most of them are bilingual or dual language.
Okay, and now I have the pleasure to introduce our guest. Darlene P. Campos holds an MFA in creative writing from the UTEP and a BA in English with a minor in medical studies from U of H. Beyond her books, she has contributed short stories to educational companies like Accelerate Education and Teacher Created Materials. Campos also collaborated with the development studio Literary Safari as a work-for-hire author, creating an original commissioned text for a major educational publisher, set to be published in January 2026. Additionally, she is a co-founder of LatinxPitch, an online pitch event for Latinx authors. And that brings us to our first question. Let's start with your journey. What inspired you to write Mr. Ray's Barbershop, and how did it evolve into a bilingual book?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it came about around the time when my father-in-law passed away, which was unfortunately very sudden for my family. He was diagnosed with stomach cancer in March of 2018, and then he passed away in May. So just 2 months. So my husband and I got married in June 2018. So it was hard to, deal with such a great loss in the family and then, have a wedding and then a honeymoon. It was really a mesh of emotions. So then the following year, when our first wedding anniversary was coming up, I thought, okay, for the first anniversary gift is always paper. And I'm a writer and we're surrounded by paper all the time. So I thought, why don't I write a picture book dedicated to the memory of my father-in-law, and I'll give it to my husband as an anniversary gift. Well, I brainstormed the idea with my brother, who is the book's illustrator. My brother is an artist and an art teacher. And then he said, well, why not just make this a book that anyone can buy? Why don't you self-publish it, upload it to Amazon QDP, and just have it that way instead of just a one-time gift just, for your husband, David. So then I thought, that's a good idea. And that's how the book was born.
And Claudia, I think you have the next question.
Yes, I was thinking about her answer. That's a really interesting story. Beautiful gift, I think, that you get to your husband. and the memory, celebrating the memory of your father-in-law. That's really cool. Can you share more about your father-in-law's story and why it felt important to honor it in both English and in Spanish?
Absolutely, that's a wonderful question. So my father-in-law was Mexican American, so he was born here in Houston, Texas, where I'm from, to a Mexican father and a Mexican American mother. And he was born in 1939. So when he was a child, using Spanish in school was not allowed, even on the playground during recess. That was just something that kids did not do back then. And if you did, you would get punished for it. And he was very frustrated by this. And I do remember him telling me as well that his name was actually Ramon, but everyone referred to him as Raymond or Ray. And he did not mind going by Ray, but he did make a point that his name was Ramon. And then the same thing happened to his siblings. So he grew up just with one brother, and I believe he had six sisters, and all of their names were changed to sound, more Americanized. So for example, his sister Raquel became Rachel, and his sister Juana became Janie. And I just thought, that is such a disservice to just change someone's name, especially when they're a child. So because of that, I felt the need to write the story in English and Spanish, because even though my father-in-law did speak English fluently, Spanish was also very important to him. So I thought, to really honor his memory, I'm going to write the story in two languages.
That is a great answer, and just so enlightening to find that out. And I think a lot of people will identify with that fact that names get changed, especially back then. Now, you said he was born in 1939. It was a very different atmosphere at the time. And sure, yes, absolutely. I believe it that he was not allowed to go by Ramon. Okay. And you speak multiple languages, I understand. And you also love learning new ones.
Yes.
Can you tell us how your multilingual background shape your approach to writing?
Yeah, that's another great question. So what I find really fun about languages is that there are a lot of words and phrases that are not translatable. For example, there are sayings in Spanish that rhyme, but if you translate them into English, they don't rhyme. And I remember hearing, phrases from my grandparents, like if we were going to get ice cream, they would say things like, quiero piña para la niña. I want pineapple for the girl, but then in English, it's like, okay, pineapple for the girl, what's significant about that? But in Spanish, it's pretty cute. So I really enjoy that about languages. And then I feel like it helps me see the world in a different way, because learning all these different phrases, like I said, don't translate into other languages. It kind of gives you a piece of the world that you wouldn't know otherwise. For example, like with German, I know just an elementary level of German. And the word in German for gloves is Handschuhe, which means hand shoes, which I think is really silly. And when I learned, I was like, oh my gosh, that's actually a word. But in English, that sounds really strange. So we just say gloves. So languages are fun that way.
Yes, that's absolutely true. All right, great answer. Thank you, Darlene. Let's pass it on to Alicia, who has the next question.
Okay, you mentioned learning Spanish in the fourth grade. How did that later connection to language influence your decision to write bilingual books?
Sure. So that's another great question. So when I was growing up, since I was born and raised in the United States, my parents really wanted me to have a strong foundation in English, which I totally understand. But anyway, so my parents really wanted me to have a strong foundation in the English language. They still did speak Spanish around me, and they would speak Spanish to me, and I understood what they were saying, but I really struggled with speaking. Oh, anyway, as I was saying, so in the fourth grade, that's when my parents really said, okay, it's time for you to learn Spanish fluently. And I remember feeling pretty frustrated because I thought this entire time the focus has been English. And then now I have to learn a language because you're forcing me to. So it didn't feel great at the time. But now as an adult, I'm really thankful that my parents did push me in that direction, because being bilingual comes with a lot of benefits. Like you can help someone in their native tongue, especially like if they're lost or they just don't know what's being said to them. Like I really like that part of being bilingual. And then, as I grew up and I became an author, I like to use other languages in my writing, especially when I'm trying to convey an idea that maybe is not going to work in English, but it'll work in Spanish, for example. So even though, like I said, my mom and dad had me learn one language like very seriously up until I was 10, and then they switched to a different one. I do appreciate that they did that for me.
It's wonderful that they switch and did that for you. I think personally, I think the younger you are, the easier it is to pick up the languages. So that's awesome that you had the opportunity to do it. That said, you can learn a new language at any age. There's no right
That's
or
true.
wrong, but that's really cool.
I also think it gives you a different, like different languages give you a different perspective on culture and almost everything that you do because words carry so much meaning. Um, and they have a different meaning in English and Spanish and any other languages. So that's great that they made you do it, but yeah, it turned out to be a benefit to your life. So
Yes, I agree. And as you said, you have the opportunity to help other people. You also have the opportunity to help yourself because it's such a plus when, I mean, we think we're going to live in the same place and have the same situation all our lives, but lives change from one minute to the next. And you may find yourself in a new place, in a new situation. And all of a sudden, that second language that you never, or third language that you never thought you were going to use or was going to come into play becomes a focal point of what you are asked to do in a new environment, in a new situation. And it is such a plus. So yeah, I'm glad that your parents encouraged you to learn English early and then, made sure that you learn the Spanish as well. So I'm sure it's been very beneficial to you. Claudia, I think you have the next question, right?
I do. So I'm gonna switch the topic just a tad here. We know that you are a co-founder of the Latinx Pitch. For those of our listeners and viewers that may not be familiar, uh, can you give us a brief description of what it is? And then
Yeah,
I'll ask you the actual question.
sure. So LatinxPitch started as a Twitter event. This was before it was called, sorry, it's called X now, but it used to be called Twitter. So I feel like I'm aging myself here. But so when it was Twitter, it was a 2 to 3 day event taking place during Hispanic Heritage Month in September, where Latinx authors of picture books, graphic novels, middle grade, young adult books would come on Twitter and they would pitch their books to agents and editors or small publishing houses with the intent to, either get an agent, either get a book deal, or find an editor for when they did find an agent. And we started during the height of COVID, and we haven't stopped since. So when we've had several success stories, so yeah, I feel like it's become a very important space in the literary world.
That's wonderful. And then for people to find it, basically, you just need to go to X and then basically look by the hashtag LatinxPitch, right?
Yes. So
Okay.
moving forward, we have been talking about moving to Discord. So that might be something that can happen, but we have a website and we have an Instagram page. So just look for us on there.
Okay, fabulous. And now, how have you seen the landscape shift for Latinx creators in children's publishing since creating this Latinx pitch? And where do you hope it's headed?
So far, I see it going in a positive direction. I feel like there are way more Latinx stories than there were when I was a kid. The only Latina author I remember reading when I was in school was Sandra Cisneros, of course, The House on Mango Street. But other than that, that was about it. But now there's so many options, and I think that that's wonderful for, Latinx kids in school now.
Excellent, thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, and you have a new middle grade novel coming up, The Center of the Earth.
Yes.
It's very unusual. It has a dual point of view. It features a Jewish refugee and an Ecuadorian girl.
Yes.
Can you tell us what drew you to making such a story that is unusual like this? Um, what exactly how did you feel that telling these two points of view of two such different people was going to be good for this novel?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So this novel is based on the true accounts of Jewish refugees who found safety in Ecuador during the Holocaust. So originally the book started only with the point of view of the Jewish refugee character because I used the accounts of people I interviewed and then I meshed the accounts into one story. Of course, adding some fictional segments to make the story fit and flow better. Well, when I went out on submission to find a publishing house, there was an editor who suggested I make the book a dual point of view book because she said that she really liked the Ecuadorian girl and she wanted to get to know her a little bit more deeply. So she made the suggestion, wanted to make it a dual point of view. And then I thought, I've never done that before, but I was willing to try. So that's what I did. I didn't end up, signing with that editor, unfortunately, but I did keep her idea. And then I actually like the book better this way because I feel like it gives the readers, especially young readers, it gives them two perspectives and they get to know, a lot about the Jewish refugees culture and his language and family. And then it gives them a lot of the Ecuadorian girl and her language and her culture and her family. So yeah, I definitely think it works better, and I would honestly consider writing more dual point of view books just because of how much fun I had with this one.
Thank
And
you.
an untold story. I've never heard of this. I've never heard a story from this perspective about Jewish refugees going to Ecuador. So it's very interesting.
Thank you.
All right. I think it's your turn, Alicia. You have the next question.
Okay. We often hear from teachers and librarians who are looking for more bilingual materials. What role do you think bilingual books play in supporting kids with limited English proficiency?
But I think it's really important to have bilingual books available because as children start to learn English as a second language, having a book in their native language, it helps foster a love of reading. And then that love of reading will transfer over when they learn English. So I feel like having those books available is really important because, I picture myself as being a young kid. I'm in a country that I'm not familiar with the culture. I don't speak the language. And I want to go to the library and then there's nothing I can read. It's not going to make me fall in love with reading. So it's so important to have that available in public libraries.
My question is a little bit different. What would you say to authors or educators who are hesitant to embrace bilingual books? Perhaps they're worried they won't be widely accessible or understood, or for any other
Yeah,
reason.
yeah, and that's a great question, and I have heard that concern before. I mean, that was a concern I had with my own middle grade novel that's coming out. There were some people along the way who said, well, a lot of people have never heard of Ecuador, and then I thought, so well, now they can learn where it is, and what Ecuador did during this history. So the way I see it is like, as long as a story is relatable, it doesn't matter where the story is from or what the heart of the language is. As long as the audience can relate, then you're fine. You have nothing to worry about. So I would just say, I understand your concern, but it's really not that bad. Like it's gonna be okay.
Right. And I think, sometimes if they are employed in an area that has a bilingual community, in a bilingual community, they're less hesitant. But if they're in a place where there is very few bilingual patrons, children or even adults, they may limited funds to purchase materials, they may hesitate. But like you said, you are also, a book like yours would be instructing people in something that is they're not familiar with, and I think that's what books are meant to do. It's fine that they hit the nerve of something that you are familiar with because you can relate to that. But by the same token, we need to learn a little bit from them. And like you say, the people who did not know where Ecuador was, now they do. And the ones that didn't know, I didn't know, I had no idea that they had welcomed Jewish refugees. Like Alicia said, this is news. I think that's fabulous that I learned something new from your book. I knew where Ecuador was, but I can see where some people didn't. And then, that we learn about this World War II story that is probably not well known and widespread. So this is great, regardless of where the library or the teachers are. It doesn't matter. We're expanding the horizons of the children is fabulous. It's a wonderful thing. Okay, I have a question about your great grandfather. Okay, your great grandfather was a poet and a songwriter.
Yes.
And do you see his creative influence showing up in your own work?
I definitely do. So he mostly wrote about family. He would write about my great grandmother a lot. He called her his greatest source of inspiration, which I think is very sweet. His most famous composition was a song called Ancla de Amor, and Ancla de Amor translates to Anchor of Love. And it has been covered by endless Ecuadorian singers and singers outside of Ecuador as well. And I wear a ring that my sister gave me. I'm gonna put on the camera. So it's an anchor with a little
What's an
heart on it.
anchor? Yeah.
Oh, that is so
And
good. Wow.
I wear this ring every day because it reminds me of my great grandparents, but especially my great grandfather. And when I've had moments of dire rejection, when I thought like, oh, I'm really gonna get this opportunity and then I don't, I have this ring on and that reminds me, that they're with me and then he passes talent on to me and that I'm gonna be okay. So yeah, definitely he's with me all the time.
That's a beautiful story. That really is nice. And I think that's so great that we have our families to back us up and our ancestors are there with us. That's wonderful. Okay, Alicia.
Yes. Okay. Next question. What are some ways our listeners, whether they're parents, educators, or fellow writers, can support the creation and distribution of bilingual books?
So I think that word of mouth is very important because we can put things online and on social media, and a lot of times, there's that term doom scrolling. We'll scroll and scroll and scroll, and then we'll miss a lot of good happenings because we'll get a lot of bad news, unfortunately. So I do still think it is important to post about bilingual books and authors on our social media platforms. But definitely, if we're on a bus sometime and someone mentions, oh, I'm looking for a book in Spanish for my kid, it's important to speak up and say, oh, well, I've written a book about this topic, or my friend has written a book about this topic, or my colleague, because word of mouth is very powerful. I mean, that's how the movie My Big Fat Greek Wedding got its success. It was a sleeper hit, so it didn't get a lot of advertising, but just people seeing it and then talking about it, that's what made it take off. So word of mouth is extremely important for success.
That's interesting. I didn't know that about that movie. That was a really fun, cute movie too.
Yes, it was. It was great. Yes. Oh, I didn't know. I didn't either. I didn't know that word of mouth had and had made it as popular as it became. Yes, absolutely. I think, and authors and book creators, illustrators as well, we sometimes are very hesitant to sing our own praises. We don't want to seem to people, oh, I'm so much better than you because I can write a book and you can't and you don't. But absolutely, word of mouth, and I think presentations and making ourselves available. Social media, like you say, is great, but it's limited. It's limited, but it's still good. But I think being out there, going to schools and presenting ourselves, reading to children, being involved in the community, definitely helps. Yes, it definitely helps.
And talk about each other's books as we like, like
Mhm.
support each other, because that's I think that's really the way to spread the word farther. But I think I
Absolutely.
have the last question. So, where can our audience find your books, connect, and stay updated about your upcoming projects?
Sure. So I have a website. It's darlenepcampos.com. I'm also on Instagram. I'm on there as Darlene P. Campos. And I also have a Facebook page, and it is Darlene P. Campos, writer. And I post about, upcoming books, upcoming short stories, any projects I'm doing. And then sometimes I also take the time to promote an author that I'm friends with and whatever work they have coming out. So yeah, that's where you can find me.
Fabulous. Well, this brings us to the end of the official interview. So you made it. Yay. But now we have three questions that we ask of every guest in our show. These are the rapid fire questions, just whatever comes to mind. 60-second answer. There's no right or wrong answer. So here is the first one. What's one fact about you that even your biggest fans might not know?
I can hula hoop very, very well. I can probably hula hoop for probably 30 minutes straight without stopping.
But can you hula hoop with more than one hoop?
That no,
Oh,
yeah,
I got you
not very
there.
good.
I got you there. Not now, not anymore. But boy, when I was little, I could do two hula hoops on my waist, one on one arm and one on the other arm and one on the neck. Yeah,
Wow,
that I
that's
was that
impressive.
I was that kind of nutty kid. Yes, I could. But you still do it. And you know what? Do you know that it's great exercise?
It really is, and it's fun. Yeah.
30 minutes. I could never do 30 minutes, but wow, that's excellent. Very good to know, Darlene.
that's amazing. I used to do it jumping around. So, you're actually walking or running around with it on your
With the
feet.
hula.
Yeah, so jumping around because I was such a active kid that I had to be moving in motion. So, but I never tried the extras on the arm.
The neck is great. My mother would freak out. What are you doing? And I'm going like this. The hula hoop was such a great invention. Whoever came up with that invention, it is nothing when you think about it. It's just a circle of plastic. But it was a great invention when it came out, and it still is. The kids still love it. So that's great to know about you, Darlene. Very good.
Yeah,
Keep
Okay,
hula hooping.
I have the second question. If others were to describe you in one, two, or three words, what would those words be?
I think they would say quiet, reserved, and kind.
Well, you certainly come across as kind.
I hope so.
Yes,
That's
very,
what I'm
very
studying.
good. Very much. This has been wonderful interview listening to you. Okay, Alicia has the last question.
Last rapid fire question. What book or books have had the most impact in your life?
So definitely The House on Mango Street by Sandra Cisneros. I read that for the first time when I was in the seventh grade, and it was the first book that I felt like I could relate to every single page. Like I remember that Esperanza's aunt sold Avon, my aunt sold Avon, and uh, the details about her neighborhood, the details about the family parties. So definitely that book has stayed with me throughout the years. And then another book that has stayed with me is Katie the Camillos because of Winn-Dixie, because I still remember the beautiful scenery about the Listmas lozenge, a lozenge that makes you feel sad, but also grateful at the same time. So two beautiful books that have stayed with me all these years.
Yes. Well,
Like
anything by
the
Kate
house on.
DiCamillo is. Go
Oh yeah,
ahead, Claude.
I was just gonna say that's a classic one, The House on Mango Street.
Yes, yes, absolutely. All right. Wonderful.
Well, this brings us to the end of our segment today. Thank you so much to our listeners. Thank you, Darlene, for being here today and co-host for all your work on this. Any last words for Darlene?
sure. So I just want to say to any young authors out there who may be listening, being an author is very difficult. You go through a lot of challenges, go through a lot of rejections, but it's very, very important just to never give up and keep writing because one day, doors will start to open and it will be all worth it. So just remember that. Don't ever give up on your writing.
Any
It's a
last
great
remarks, Alicia or Sylvia?
No, I just appreciate that message. It's a very, very good message because we do tend to get down on ourselves when we get rejected, Our books are like our children, and nobody likes to see their child being rejected. And so when somebody tells you, no, no, and you're going, oh my God, it's like they don't like my kid, But
Yes.
you can't feel like that. You cannot feel like that. What was it? J.K. Rowling could not publish at all. Nobody wanted Harry Potter. Well, Mark Twain was told not to quit his day job. So if there's hope, if there was hope for them, there's hope for us. But that's a very good message, Darlene. Thank you for sharing that.
No problem.
In children's books, Beatrix Potter, for Peter Rabbit, she had to go and she got rejected so much, and she went to self-publish first.
Yeah, she did.
So that's where perseverance really pays off there. So she proved that it could be successful, and well, it's still out there today, and it's one of my
Yes.
favorites actually still.
Yes, me too.
Alicia, anything from you?
No, I just wanted to say thank you for coming today. I thought your story is very interesting, and I'm glad we're able to share it with our listeners.
Thank you. And I just figured out a few days ago that you're in Houston as well. So
Yes, I am.
go to your events.
Oh, I see a get together coming in.
And Sylvia, I was in Miami just a few months ago, but I didn't know you lived there. I would have stopped by to say hi.
Oh, yes, please,
Yeah.
the next time.
I have a lot of family over there. So
Stay tuned for the next Bilingual Book Buddies episode with author Alda P. Dobbs.